Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University School of Tourism and Hospitality Service Management, SOTHSM Certificate in Tourism Studies, CTS TS2 Tourism Development, Products, Operations, and Case Studies. Block-2 Guides and Escorts. Unit-7 The Mountain Guide, Sherpa. 7.0 Objectives. A change in the locale of destination also brings about a change in the functions of a guide. After reading this unit, you will be able to appreciate the role of a guide in the Himalayan region. Know the difference between a guide and a pathfinder. Learn about the Sherpas. Familiarize yourself with the specific expectations of the tourist from guide/path finders in the Himalayas, and know about the skills required by the guide/pathfinders. 7.1 Introduction. Today, the Himalayas are no more just the destination of pilgrims, explorers, surveyors, soldiers, or a handful of mountaineers. A huge number of trekkers, climbers, and nature lovers frequent the treks, trails, and peaks, and the name given to this is Himalayan tourism. Caption: MS Kohli has defined it in the following words. It means tourist traffic, both domestic as well as international, to the Himalayas. Such tourists could be trekkers, mountaineers, photographers, botanists, zoologists, writers, artists, poets, and even scientists. It also includes those who visit Himalayan towns and stay put, merely enjoying the grandeur and scenic beauty of the mountains. Cap. Kohli worked with Air India for the promotion Himalayan tourism, particularly the adventure component of trekking and climbing. Today, besides Air India, practically every state tourism department and a number of travel agents and tour operators promote it in a big way. Treks and trails are offered as products to be experienced. College students are picking fast trekking as a hobby, and already in metropolitan towns it is becoming a fashion to speak about the trek one went to or experienced. A number of write-ups appear in papers and magazines giving live experiences, and many books have been written by experts on the subject. Ironically, most of these gloss over or just have a passing reference of the role played by the locals as guides or and pathfinders in making the experience a success. You should remember that not everyone can put on sports shoes, hold a stick, hang a sleeping bag, and go out on a trek or climb. For this kind of activity, a certain amount of skill is required, along with proper briefing and guidance. Quite a few mountaineering training institutes have come up over the years, and the services of professionals are also available. Yet it is the local who leads the trek. Tourism can survive only with active involvement of local people, and it enjoys a symbiotic relationship with them. In order that the local people are positively disposed towards activities connected with tourism in their region, the activities should provide economic sustenance and benefit to them. Hence, participation of locals can be ensured by their direct involvement in tourism activities that bring them a means of livelihood. At the same time, local people respond to the needs of travelers visiting their region and ensure that trained manpower and expertise is available to the tourists at economically viable rates. This interdependence of tourism and the local people should be mutually beneficial and maintained for sustaining the growth of tourism in any particular region. The local Sherpa of the Himalaya region has continuously adapted himself to the growing needs of the climbers, explorers, and trekkers visiting the Himalayas. From a humble porter, he has transformed himself over the years as a guide, advisor, and pathfinder, all rolled in one. This he has done by continuously updating his skills. By taking on more specialized roles, he has also ensured that visitors do not have to bring trained personnel from far-off places at great financial costs. They can rely on locals. This is more convenient to both i.e., The visitors and the locals. This unit attempts to familiarize you with the functions of a guide/pathfinder in the Himalayas. The expectations of the tourists and the skills required for this job have also been discussed. We also tell you more about the Sherpa of the Himalayas. 7.2 Guide and Pathfinder. Guide is person who directs or leads in any sort of activity. The guide in the Himalayan region is often a local person who is familiar with the terrain and routes and is thus able to lead the group along known routes. He also acts as the local liaison man who helps in organizing porters, provisioning of rations, finding suitable accommodation, etc. Thus, he is a guide and an escort both. Pathfinder is a term that was made popular by the early settlers in America. In those days, a person who was skilled in negotiating the wilderness and thus could find a path in unfamiliar terrain through which groups of early settlers could be taken to greener pastures was called a pathfinder. In the Himalayan region, it denotes a person well versed in climbing skills who is required to open a route in such a way that climbers or trekkers under his care can safely negotiate the route with his help and guidance. The main difference between a guide and the pathfinder is of the skills possessed by them. Traditionally, a pathfinder is also more of an adventurer who has taken the role of pathfinder for the sheer joy of it and accepts financial remuneration to sustain his sense of adventure. On the other hand, a guide takes on his role mainly as a means of earning a livelihood and utilizes his familiarity with terrain along with his natural skills towards attaining this goal. However, the romantic image of PD finder no longer holds true in the context of the Himalayas. 7.3 Sherpas, the people. It has been customary for the climbers and trekkers in the Himalayan region to refer to the climbing guides or competent high-altitude porters under the same generic heading of Sherpa, irrespective of the fact that the person may be of Nepali, Garhwali or Balti origin or any other tribesman. This has been the climbing or trekking community's complement to the skills of a Sherpa. Sherpa is actually a member or a very distinct Himalayan tribe. However, today it denotes a job category which includes assisting a trekking group with setting up of tents, by carrying loads, by managing supplies, and doing other odd jobs like cooking, etc. during the trek. Sherpas are people of Tibetan origin who hail from the districts of Solu and Khumbu, located in the Nepal-Tibet border region. Their villages are all located at very high altitude, and the barren arid landscape has provided for them harsh living conditions. These strong and hardy people have migrated to other places in search of the means of making a decent living. Between the two world wars, a sizable group of these people come and settled at Darjeeling, which was then a roadhead for the British climbing expeditions approaching Everest through Sikkim. Sherpas earned great name with climbing expeditions brought by the Westerners. Their strength and hardiness, coupled with their ability to smile even in tough situations, not only made them good porters but also ideal companions on expeditions. During the entire first half of the century, it was quite common for them to travel long distances to join expeditions led by renowned personalities. Their endearing qualities made them so popular with the Western climbers that in the later years, when another Himalayan tribesman joined expeditions by virtue of his having acquired skills, he too was referred to, as a lot of local people were used by these teams as porters and errand boys. However, very soon the visitors discovered Sherpas who were the most needy and, therefore, also the most willing to carry loads for the visitors. In 1907, Sir Francis Young's husband led an expedition to Sikkim and concluded a treaty which gave the British exclusive access to the Everest region through that country. The Young Husband Treaty was to greatly influence the climbing and trekking activities in the Himalayas. Soon the British started visiting the Everest region in large numbers for exploration. reconnaissance and activities associated with climbing. Almost simultaneously, the Germans so developed a similar fascination for Nanga Parvat region as they had no access to the Everest region then. These teams needed a large number of porters to meet their requirements, and local people from Himalayan regions were employed by them for this purpose. Darjeeling in those days was the roadhead for British expeditions and was a place where porters were recruited by them. A large number of Sherpas came and settled there for this purpose. Sherpas were born and brought up in high-altitude regions. This gave them an edge in coping with lesser oxygen available higher up in the Himalayan region. They were also used to carrying loads as a matter of routine in their homelands, and the adverse Sherpa, the term thus, became synonymous with any local person who was a guide or at least a competent high-altitude porter. 7.4 Evolution into Pathfinder. The evolution of Sherpa into Pathfinder has been the consequence of the necessities of climbing and trekking activities in the Himalayas. This transformation of roles not only benefited the Sherpas by increasing their value and improving financial considerations but also ensured that the increasingly large number of people visiting Himalayas had with them available the services of pathfinders. The process of evolution of Sherpa into Pathfinder can be easily understood by following the history and development of climbing, trekking and exploration in the Himalayan region. Some organized teams started visiting the Himalayan region in the 18,808 and 90s. No particular area was then a favorite of these early explorers, and they visited places across the entire length of the Himalayas. Naturally, for the sake of convenience and economy, conditions at high altitudes did not faze them. As a result, they were effective in working supporters and always could maintain a cheerful countenance. Subsequently, the success of Sherpas motivated other local people to utilize similar advantages of birth and inhabitation available. The qualities of Sherpas gave them wide acceptance among the Western climbers, trekkers, and explorers. The Sherpas accompanied them on large number of trips, and such frequent interaction enabled them to learn both the communication and other technical skills known to those who hired them. Very soon, the more enterprising among them became porter Sardas and high-altitude porters, which entitled them to better wages and perks. Meanwhile, the focus of activities shifted to other areas in Himalayas as well, which gave the local people of the region, who were dwelling in higher altitudes, similar opportunities. For example, the decade of 1930s saw a lot of activity in Kumaon/Garhwal region, and this gave the locals of this region an opportunity to get involved and interact with the visiting travelers. They also started going through the same evolutionary process as the Sherpas, albeit at a slower pace, due to their late start. The number of teams visiting Himalayas started increasing, and this gave birth to the need for having an equally large number of guides. Natura only the Sherpa who had graduated as a high-altitude porter was the one who was readily available to step in this void, and soon the local Sherpas had also become guides. Success and fame achieved by the likes of Sherpa Tenzing, Sonam Gyatso and Nawang Gombu in later years motivated the local Sherpas to strive even more to learn the skills and improve their prospects. The decade of 1950s saw almost all the major peaks in Himalayas climbed. The successes led to an extensive documentation of the Himalayan region, which gave wide publicity to the region. The publicity and easy access to information made more and more people interested in traveling to the Himalayas. Most of these people were from urban centers located all over the world and were novices as far as traveling in the mountains was concerned. The mushrooming growth in the number of such people necessitated the need for people who possessed professional skills about traveling in the mountains. The local Sherpa who was acting as a guide responded to this challenge, and many of them took up the role of pathfinder, which only a few years ago was the exclusive preserve of the Western explorer. The fact that a pathfinder is a more exclusive role and ensures better financial perks along with the prestige associated with it has motivated even larger number of local guides, be it a Sherpa, Nepali, Garhwali, Balti or Kumauni, to take up the role of pathfinder with great enthusiasm. The local Sherpa of Himalayan region has evolved from being an ordinary porter to being a pathfinder. It is a classic example of guide taking the role of pathfinder. The process has been possible only because increase in the volume of traffic necessitated it and ensured that the evolution was economically beneficial to the Sherpa. The last 2 decades in particular have seen an explosive growth in the number of people visiting Himalayan region. The transition for the local Sherpa from porter to pathfinder has been very rapid. As a result, today Sherpa is central to the climbing and trekking activity in the Himalayas. He is guide, advisor, companion and pathfinder to the ever-increasing number of teams visiting the Himalayan region. Such a scenario was unimaginable only a few years ago, when they played second fiddle to their employers. 7.5 Guide/Pathfinder and Middle. Expectations. It has already been brought out earlier that most of the travelers in the Himalayan region are newcomers to the area, who neither have much technical skills nor are familiar with routes and terrain. To ease their travel, they have to perforce use the services of guides, whom they look upon as their saviors. Obviously, their expectations from their guides are very high, and it is difficult for any single individual to measure up to these expectations. Ideally, the average tourist would expect him to be possessing enormous physical and mental qualities, and the expectations in general are as follows. A. The guide should be physically very fit with lot of stamina and strength. B. The guide should have the technical skills necessary for moving at various altitudes in the Himalayas. C. The guide should be familiar with local customs and traditions and should be able to avoid potentially embarrassing situations. D. He should be familiar with the local area, terrain and routes. C. He should act as the liaison man between tourists and the local people. T. The guide should be familiar with search and rescue procedures. He also should be proficient enough to be able to physically serve his wards in case such a need arises. G. In case traveling is through previously unexplored areas, the guide should have enough navigational skills and be able to find his way through. 7.6 Skills required by guides/pathfinders. Keeping in view the expectations of tourists from a guide, the following skills would be required to be mastered. A. Proficiency in the languages spoken by both the tourists and local people. B. Familiarity with local people, area and area along with customs and practices. C. Familiarity with the rules governing tourism in the area. D. Concern for the environment and local ecology. E. Proficiency in technical skills coupled with superb physical fitness. F. Capacity to withstand stress and coolly handle emergencies. G. Should have an even temperament so as to be able to handle all kinds of persons. H. Familiarity with search and rescue procedures along with proficiency in evacuation skills and first aid. 7.7 Other aspects. It is always good idea go trekking in groups, for single travel in mountains can be hazardous. Many a times trekkers don't take guides, but still they have to depend on the information of local people as and when they meet them. It is always better that trekkers are equipped with maps and familiar with possible hazards. For example, falling rocks, avalanches, landslides, oxygen trouble, coldness etc. are some of the problems a trekker may face. Not only he should be familiarized with them in advance, but the guide should be aware of the methods to be adopted if such a situation arises. Fast movement is not good in the mountains, and this should be the first advice from the guide. 7.8. Summary: the skills of a guide in the Himalayas have to be fully utilized. The guide here is at times practically everything to the tourist. He's a pathfinder, guide, potter, cook, climber, storyteller, entertainer, rescuer, etc. In fact, he is the companion and friend. A Sherpa has mastered all such skills, and today the name is attributed to anyone who performs these functions. Thank you.